Welcome to Wales Today. Our headlines tonight. The first prisoners arrive at the new jail in Wrexham, now Britain's biggest prison. We'll have the inside story.
This is Bala, the first section of the prison to be opened. I've been having a look around to see how and where the prisoners will be spending their sentences.
Well, it opens as the prison service is under pressure like never before. So how can Bangor avoid the problems facing jails up and down the country? Andrew Saunders, who murdered his ex-girlfriend and her new partner outside the Matalan store in Cardiff, is jailed for life. Wales has the highest proportion of crashes involving young drivers in the UK. Is it time now to stop them driving at night and carrying passengers? And day one of the M4 public inquiry, why going underground may be the solution to this daily congestion. Good evening. It's Britain's biggest jail, and tonight the first prisoners have just started arriving at HMP Bangor in Wrexham. It has the capacity to house more than 2,000 inmates and costs £250 million to build. There's been a long campaign to get a prison in North Wales, but the opening comes at a time when the prison service is under increasing pressure. And will this new site bring the economic benefits that it promised? The first of our reports tonight is from Matthew Richards, who spent today inside the new prison.
So in here, this is a double room. Obviously, you can see there's two beds.
Staff say that HMP Bangor is different from prisons you might have imagined.
The living conditions, they were going to be superb because it's brand new. But I think a lot of the things have been well thought out as well. There's little sort of advantages to having a new build where we can put things like internet ports in so that they can do things like education and things like that, and it's a great tool to have when we want to rehabilitate someone as opposed to label them as being a prisoner.
But it's opening at a time when the prison service is under tremendous pressure, with record overcrowding, violence and suicides. The majority of prisoners who come here will be Category C, meaning they have a lower likelihood of escaping. They'll be encouraged to work and gain qualifications. Even the design is meant to reduce tension. There's actually 4 floors in this block, but they're divided by ceilings, which is supposed to give the men a sense of a smaller community and not have the big imposing spaces you might find in the Victorian jail. The Governor says the focus is on setting prisoners up for a positive future.
We're going to have a rehabilitative culture where the men that live here will have every opportunity to live law-abiding lives when they're released. I think we're going to have a situation where our staff understand what their role is in making sure that we have a rehabilitative environment. We get the men to be able to look to the future, ambition and hope, and have a real desire to be able to support their families in the future.
The campaign to get a prison in North Wales has been a long one, with local people arguing prisoners should be placed closer to their families. Michael Goldsmith from Menai Bridge was jailed for fraud in 2013 and spent a year in Alt Course Prison on Merseyside. He says family contact is crucial, but not always easy to access.
The Ministry of Justice don't care where you are. Once you're sentenced, you're in the system. They'll move you anywhere in the country where they want you to. They don't care if it's further away from your family. At the moment, that's all they're doing. You get sentenced, you've already been punished. Yeah, you've done the crime, I understand that. But then you and your family are being punished even more because they're moving you further away.
The Welsh Secretary says there will be benefits for local prisoners.
It's about giving them the opportunity so that when they leave, they will be better skills, they will be more employable. But if that can be delivered through the medium of the Welsh language, then because it's in Wales, of course, we will be delivering on that. And we're keen to answer the needs of every part of the United Kingdom. And of course, Wales is fundamental to that.
These are bricks of shame.
But this protest by penal reform campaigners yesterday was designed to highlight the flaws they see in prisons like this.
Building your way out of a current prison crisis is not the way forward. What we actually need is full-scale programme of decarceration, a reduction in the prison population, because as we know, the vast majority of people who are in prison are not a danger to the community.
Building work won't be completed until the summer, but the Ministry of Justice hopes that HMP Bangor will play a key role within the prison service.
Well, within the last few hours, the Ministry of Justice has won a High Court injunction blocking industrial action by prison staff, including those in Wrexham, which was due to begin tomorrow morning. This is the latest in a long list of challenges to dog the prison service. Our reporter James Williams is here with more. James.
Thank you, Jamie. HMP Bangor is part of the UK government's plan to update the prison estate. After all, some buildings date back to the Victorian era. Now, obviously, conditions have changed considerably since then, but today's prison system is undoubtedly under pressure. So, what difference will Bangor Prison make? Well, complaints about overcrowding are widespread. Since 1991, the prison population in England and Wales has almost doubled from 45,000 to more than 85,000. Now, the vast majority of prisoners are housed in what the Ministry of Justice defines as a good, decent standard of accommodation. But there are more than 6,000 inmates who aren't in such decent accommodation. And so, Bangor Prison's more than 2,000 places isn't going to address the overcapacity issue on its own.
We don't need new prisons. We need fewer prisoners. Bangor is not going to help reduce crime. In fact, it'll probably make it worse. In the long run, in years to come, I will be talking to people in Wales saying that this prison is a disaster because it is overcrowded, under-resourced and is festering with crime.
Now, government ministers would dispute that claim, but they can't argue with some of the problems seen in our prisons in recent months. These were the scenes at Birmingham Prison just before Christmas. They were the worst prison riots seen for more than a quarter of a century. Last year, a record number of people killed themselves in Welsh and English prisons. Self-harm incidents also reached a record high, and assaults on staff were up 40% since the previous year.
There is a correlation between reduced staffing levels and increase in violence. That, coupled with the introduction of psychoactive substances which get smuggled into jails, creates a tsunami of violence, drugs, weapons and instability. The positives about Bangor is it's opening on time and within budget, and we've got a forward-thinking governor with fresh ideas.
And he'll need those fresh ideas if this new so-called super prison is going to be a success. Jamie.
James, thank you. And later we'll be looking at whether the building of the prison has delivered the economic benefits promised to North Wales. First, the rest of today's news. A man who murdered his ex-girlfriend and her new partner on Cardiff's main shopping street has been told that he'll spend at least 23 years behind bars. Andrew Saunders repeatedly stabbed 21-year-old Zoe Morgan and 33-year-old Lee Simmons outside the Matalan shop where they worked in September last year. The families of his victims say they feel the sentence is too lenient. Caroline Evans reports.
Driven by jealousy, he spent days planning the attack. This CCTV shows Andrew Saunders making his way along Queen Street, intent on murder. The attack on the young couple was described by the judge today as savage, senseless and sustained.
This was a brutal, unprovoked and premeditated attack. Saunders attended the location well before Zoe Morgan and Lee Simmons that day and ambushed them.
The plastic bag conceals 2 knives bought from a supermarket after days spent on the internet researching how to kill. His actions leaving families devastated.
As a family, we will never be able to express how we feel inside and the disappointment we feel at the leniency of the sentence that has been passed today. We are all totally heartbroken and will miss our beautiful, intelligent girl for the rest of our lives.
The whole family has been left devastated by this horrific and unprovoked crime. We have been deeply shocked by the brutality of it. It has not only had a massive impact upon ours and Zoe's family, but we believe also Andrew Saunders' family.
Zoe tried to stop the attack on Lee. When she failed, she tried to run, but Saunders caught her.
She was just a joy, an absolute joy, and pretty with it. A terrible waste of a life, an absolute waste of life.
On arrest, Saunders told police he was sorry he had snapped. His lawyers said at the time of the killings he was suicidal.
Passing sentence, the judge described Saunders' actions as savagely violent, telling him, whatever your mental state, you took the lives of 2 people. You robbed the families of Lee Simmons and Zoe Morgan of a much-loved son and a much-loved daughter.
Saunders was sentenced to life and told he'll serve a minimum of 23 years. The families say it's not enough.
Caroline Evans reporting. Friends of Trudy Jones from Blackwood, killed when a gunman opened fire on a beach in Tunisia, have told BBC Wales more should have been done to prevent her death. An inquest concluded today that she was unlawfully killed, along with 29 other British tourists. The court heard the Tunisian police response was shambolic at best. Paul Heaney has been speaking to those who knew her.
There was nothing to dislike about her because she was always just so lovely. And so, you know, struggle all your life, bring your children up, have a little break. And sadly, she didn't come back.
Friends say more should have been done to try to save Trudy Jones as a lone gunman opened fire, trying to kill as many people as he could. The hotel she stayed at in the Tunisian resort of Sousse was not ruled to have been neglectful today. The police response, however, described in court as shambolic at best and at worst, cowardly.
The police have got a lot to answer for, the Tunisian police. I mean, Trudy's family will never, ever, ever come to terms with what's happened. Her friends, nobody.
Some members of Trudy Jones' family followed proceedings in London at a special private hearing here in Cardiff today. They told me they didn't want to comment. This is the nursing home near Blackwood where she used to work, remembered for bringing happiness and excitement to people's day.
You know, it's a lovely memory and it will always live on here. And the residents do speak of her every day. There's not one day she isn't mentioned here by somebody.
Matthew James from Trehafod near Pontypridd was also shot that day trying to protect his partner. Physical wounds may have healed, but many are still suffering trauma. Trudy Jones was identified by distinctive nail varnish and dental records. It's not clear if her family will look to join others in pursuing further legal action against the holiday company. On this bench, her married name. Just one reminder of a woman sorely missed and warmly remembered.
Paul Heaney reporting. A Bangor University student who was threatened with deportation has been told she can remain in the UK temporarily. Shiramini Sakunaja, who was born in Sri Lanka, lived in the UK for 8 years. She's been released from detention but has not been given formal leave to stay in the UK. The Welsh Conservatives are calling for fundamental reform of the way the General Medical Council handles disciplinary and negligence cases. 5-year-old Ellie Mae Clark from Newport died of an asthma attack 2 years ago, hours after a GP refused to see her because she was minutes late for an emergency appointment. Dr. Joanna Rowe was given a warning by the GMC, which dealt with the case behind closed doors. The number of young people killed or seriously injured on our roads has risen by 15% over the last 3 years. Wales has the highest proportion of crashes involving young drivers in the UK. Now there are plans to introduce restrictions on new drivers until they build up experience driving. India Pollock reports.
This is Joe's room. Pretty much untouched since it all happened.
David and Andrea Daniels' son Joe spent a month in a coma before he died, following a car crash in Merthyr Tydfil in October 2015. 2 of Joe's best friends were also killed in the crash, 18-year-old Rhys Jones and 20-year-old Ryan Gibbons. The driver of their car, 21-year-old John Graham, was sentenced to 10 months in jail, reduced to 5, after admitting 3 counts of death by careless driving. The families are now campaigning for restrictions on new drivers, as well as tougher guidelines and punishments.
Whatever happens, there's got to be a deterrent to stop people doing it. I want my son to be remembered as a person, as I do with Rhys and Ryan. They were 3 fun-loving kids, whole world ahead of them.
John Graham says he's deeply sorry, but that he didn't have any control over his sentence. The Welsh Government wants to cut the numbers of young people killed or seriously injured on the roads by 40% by 2020. While good progress is being made, the latest figures show that 284 young people died or were seriously injured in 2015, an increase of 15% compared with 2012. The secretary responsible now wants to introduce graduated driver licences to build up experience on the road before they carry passengers or drive at night.
Graduated licences are the next
big opportunity to drive down the number of young people that are killed or seriously injured. And we will be pressing the UK government to enable us to introduce such a scheme.
The UK government is looking at changing the penalties for drivers who kill or injure, but there are no plans to introduce graduated driver licences at the moment. Any changes will come too late for the families of these boys, but they still hope that something will be done to stop other young people being killed on the roads.
And you can see more on that story in, Week Out. Too Young, Too Fast, Too Soon on BBC One Wales tonight at 10:40. You're watching Wales Today from the BBC. Much more to come before 7 o'clock. It's the biggest change in our schools for a generation. The OECD says stick with the new curriculum.
And the weather is looking pretty unsettled over the coming days, with a series of weather systems bringing rain in from the west.
The M4 around Newport is not fit for purpose and problems will get worse. That's according to evidence heard at the opening of the public inquiry into the M4 Relief Road. It'll consider a range of proposals to relieve congestion around the Brynglas tunnels, including the Welsh Government's £1 billion Black Route. Our reporter Jordan Davis has been at the inquiry all day today. What did they hear today, Jordan?
Well, Jamie, the inspector outlined the scale of the inquiry into the stretch of road behind me. There are now 22 separate proposals, and the inquiry may take 5 months. It may take 6 months, not 5 months. Now, some of these proposals are well publicised, some not so much, including a 14-mile tunnel, which the inspector likened to the Channel Tunnel, and the motorway would pass through that. Now, the inquiry is beginning by looking at the Welsh Government's argument for the £1 billion so-called Black Route, the new motorway that would run to the south of Newport. The Welsh Government said the stretch of road behind me is not fit for purpose and the problems will only get worse. One witness for the Welsh Government said they'd already looked at 100 proposals over the years and none of those proposals before this have addressed the problem. Now, the Welsh Government says the Black Route will provide value for money and will be essential to improving the Welsh economy and will also improve the air quality in this area.
And what else are we expecting to hear over coming months?
Well, we're expecting to hear the many and varied opinions opposing the so-called Black Route, including from environmental and nature groups and large organisations like Associated British Ports, who own Newport Docks. The Black Route will cross 4 sites of special scientific interest on the Gwent levels, and nature groups are concerned the Black Route will devastate this area. And there's concern over the £1 billion price tag and the sustainability of the so-called Black Route. Now, the inquiry has begun. It'll report in 5 or 6 months, and then it'll be up to the Welsh Government to make a decision based on that report.
Jordan Davis in Newport, thank you. The organisation behind the PISA International School Ranking says Wales should continue its radical reform of the school curriculum, but it needs to be supported by sustained investment in raising the standard of teaching. Our education correspondent Colette Hume reports.
This is the new curriculum in action. It's a science lesson with a dash of maths and a side order of education in healthy eating added for good measure. Lewis School in Pengham is piloting the new curriculum. From 2021, this is what learning could look like across Wales. Education won't just be about what children know, it'll also be about what they can do with what they know. And digital skills will take centre stage.
The curriculum here in Wales is undergoing the biggest change in a generation. The way teachers teach and the way pupils learn is undergoing a massive overhaul.
It is a massive change. It's a change which we're hoping will have positive effects on the students and it will allow them to develop skills which is going to be useful for employment in the future.
But is it the right thing to do? Last December, the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development unveiled the World School Report known as PISA. Every 3 years, it ranks 15-year-olds from more than 60 cities and countries in reading, maths and science. For the past decade, Wales has performed poorly, coming last out of the 4 home nations and below countries including Singapore, Vietnam and Slovenia. The The Education Secretary Kirsty Williams asked the OECD to come to Wales and report on the changes in education, including the reform of the curriculum, plans to drive up teaching standards and the creation of a new national academy to foster the next generation of head teachers. Today, the OECD revealed its findings at a conference of head teachers from across the country. It says Wales is on the right track.
The move to a curriculum that is really built around 21st century skills, that's an ambition. We don't see that yet in the classroom, but I do think that is the right ambition for Wales to have to move forward.
The OECD say our reforms and our curriculum are exciting, are exactly what our children need to do, so our job now is to ensure there's a successful implementation.
But the Conservatives have expressed concerns, saying the report highlights glaring weaknesses in the government's plans to foster that new breed of school leaders. The report says many efforts to develop leadership have stalled or are still in the planning phase. And in a note of warning, the OECD counsels government ministers against trying to introduce yet more new education policies. In just 4 years' time, learning in Wales could look very different.
Colette Hume reporting. The office of Wales' best-selling daily newspaper, the Daily Post, will move from Llandudno Junction to Colwyn Bay after 16 years. The staff, who hadn't officially been told of the move, found out when the supermarket Lidl issued a press release earlier saying it would be taking over the site. Rugby and the Ospreys have moved their European Rugby Challenge Cup quarter-final against Stade Français to the Principality Stadium. The switch to Cardiff comes after Swansea City's game against Middlesbrough was moved to the same day, the 2nd of April, meaning the Liberty Stadium is no longer available. Let me take you back to our top story now. HMP Bangor in Wrexham has taken in its first inmates this evening. It's Britain's biggest prison. But will it provide the sizable boost to the local economy that's long been promised? Here's our economics correspondent, Sarah Dickens.
New cement lorries, £1 million worth of them, paid for by the contract this firm won to supply concrete to build the prison. Eco Ready Mix doubled its employees here to 24 when the prison work began, and it's managing to keep them on because more work has followed. Paul Dunn has been buying vast amounts of concrete from here. He's had the job of making the concrete floors for the massive prison.
This big job, it will come once, so we wanted to keep it local, and we have done with all the materials. We've kept everything local.
And so the money goes round and round. The cement, sand and stone to make the concrete has all come from nearby businesses in North Wales. It's taken 2.5 years to build on a site big enough to house 65 football pitches.
From the start, the developers of this prison promised that they'd spend as much of the £200 million as possible in the local economy. And by that, what they mean is between 50 miles or an hour's drive. That's anywhere between Stoke-on-Trent, Llandudno, Liverpool or Newtown. In reality, more than a third of their spending has been with local businesses. And in terms of SMEs, small and medium-sized businesses, they've spent £80 million, not £50 million. The challenge is to do that similar kind of spending when the prison's open.
But it seems very difficult at the moment to know how much the prison will be buying from local firms once it's fully up and running. Dot Crimes opened this cafe in the middle of town in September. She expects to be welcoming more customers.
You're saying all those prisoners, there's about to be families coming through to see them. They're not just going to come through to the prison. The train station is the top end of town, so they're going to be travelling through town to get to the train station, and the bus station's just around the corner. So it's got to benefit us, hasn't it?
This is one firm that has gained a reputation from supplying the prison that has led to new contracts on other projects, but others may struggle to find similar work once the building is complete.
The challenge for us as a region now is to take that construction workforce on the supply chain who've been involved in HMP Bangor and to signpost them to other projects now within the region. So obviously we're seeing things such as the new bypass at Carnarvon, we're seeing obviously the groundwork starting at Wilfernewydd shortly, and obviously then if the tidal lagoon at Colwyn Bay comes off, we have to programme as a region where these opportunities lie and to work with the construction industry and the supply chain.
There will no doubt be some who think not enough money has been spent with businesses in North Wales. But among those who have won contracts, there seems to be a determination to keep as much of the work as possible with local Welsh businesses.
Nice sunny day there. Ben House has got tonight's weather forecast. Ben House.
Thanks very much, Jamie. Well, it's been a rather unsettled day. We started the day on an icy note. We saw some frost, even snow in places. As we go through tonight, we do have some wintry showers to deal with, but gradually they will clear and we can look forward to drier conditions overnight, but it will be another cold night ahead. So yes, still a few showers lurking around, some of those heavy and wintry, but already something drier for Anglesey as we go through the night. Underneath the clear skies, we'll see widespread frost forming and also the potential for some icy stretches. You will need to take care, especially on untreated surfaces. Overnight lows getting down to 2 Celsius. So it is a cold night, but it shouldn't be as cold as the night just gone. Now tomorrow it is St David's Day. It's a dry start to the day. We can look forward to some sunshine, but grab the umbrella as you head out. We do have this weather front which will bring some rain with it from the south as we head into the afternoon. It is also the first day of meteorological spring, but it won't feel like it. It's chilly first thing. We do have some frost to deal with, some sunshine, and then there it is, that rain pushing up from the south. Now, across parts of Wrexham, Denbighshire and Flintshire hanging on to the best of the drier and brighter weather for much of Wednesday, but rain will reach you later on in the day with the temperatures nothing to write home about, ranging between 7 to 9 Celsius, the winds lighter than today. Now, as we head into tomorrow night, we do have some heavy rain to deal with, the potential for some snow, especially on higher ground across North Wales. Further south, becoming dry and the skies clearing. It will be another chilly night, and where the skies do clear, there is the potential for some frost to form. Overnight lows getting down to about 1 Celsius. Now, as we head towards the end of the week, it's a bit of a messy picture. A series of weather systems bringing with it wind and rain. So it is looking rather unsettled towards the end of the week, but it will feel less cold than recent days. So as we head into Thursday, yes, it's a dry and bright start, a bit of a chilly start to the morning, but it won't last very long. We do have more rain coming in from the west. The only positive is that it will feel less cold. The temperatures back up in double figures, reaching a high of 10 Celsius. Bit of a blustery day too. If that wasn't enough, by the time we head into Friday, we have another band of rain coming in. This one even heavier. There is the potential that we could see some warnings released by the time we get towards the end of the week. Mixture of sunshine and showers for the weekend. Back to you, Jamie.
Ben House, thank you. The headlines again. The coroner at the inquest into the deaths of 30 British tourists who were killed in a gun attack on a beach in Tunisia has described the local security response as at best shambolic, at worst cowardly. Trudy Jones from Blackwood was among those killed. Her friends say more should have been done to prevent her death. I'll have an update for you here at 8 o'clock and again after the BBC News at 10. That's Wales Today. Thank you for watching. From all of us on the programme, good evening.